What if the vampire came for the ones it loved first? This is the reality of the Vourdalak, the Slavic vampire that comes home, the vampire cursed to drink the blood of its closest family first. My channel is small but growing. Subscribing, liking, and commenting can help you find me again. Origins. We begin, darlings, not in misty Transylvania, but in the borderlands of the Balkans, Serbia, Dalmatia, the old Habsburg Ottoman frontier, where Europe first learned to fear the word vampire. In this desperate region, devastated by the Austrian-Ottoman War, the population roamed the scarce lands, semi-nomadic. These conquered boundary districts were ruled from Vienna, and it is these communities that give us our first taste of the Vourdalak. You see, at that time, these regions were governed by the Austro-Hungarian military, imperial officers of dignity, fine education, and high reputation. But something was happening to the people of their villages, and it is difficult to dismiss these accounts. In 1725, villagers at Kiseljevo begged an imperial provisor, Ernst Frombold, to witness an exhumation. 9 neighbours had died within 10 weeks, and blame fell on the recently buried Petar Blagojević. On their deathbeds, the dying had attested that Petar had returned to them in their dreams. His wife swore that Petar had returned to her, asked for his shoes, and left. The desperate villagers begged the Austrian officer to participate in unearthing Petar. Frombold recorded what he saw on that terrible day. I did not note the slightest odour that is characteristic of the dead, and the body, except for the nose, which had somewhat fallen away, was completely fresh. Not without astonishment, I saw some fresh blood in his mouth. Frombold is clear. When Petar was staked through the heart, he issued a terrible living scream. But it did not end there. 6 years later, soldiers and surgeons investigated his spate of deaths at Medveđa. A militiaman named Arnold Paole had told his fellow villagers that he had been savaged by a vampire on his journeys, but had cured his infernal hunger for blood by eating the dirt of the grave of the vampire that had attacked him. However, after Arnold fell from a hay cart and was killed, the trouble really began. So many deaths followed his that intervention was begged for by imperial authorities. A regimental field surgeon named Johann Flukinger investigated the deaths and issued a chilling memorandum about the events titled Visum a Repertum. Seen and discovered. He found a village beset by deaths, among people and livestock. His men witnessed how the locals, driven to terror, disinterred the bodies of suspected vampires and found them complete and whole, noting, all those who were tormented and killed by the vampire must themselves become vampires. Once again, the officers reported that when pinned by a stake of aspen through the heart, the dead one shrieked and issued forth impossibly liquid blood. This report is dated 26th of January 1732, Belgrade, and bears the signatures of 5 imperial officers. These 2 cases, sworn to by officials with reputations, fixed the vampire in the European mind and prepared the ground for the Vourdalak, the revenant who comes home first, to the village, to your home, to the ones it loves. The Vourdalak is a vampire with a terrible preference. They first feed on their own kin, specifically the blood of family and loved ones is favoured. Where the English Gothic makes a vampire the seductive outsider, Slavic tradition turns the threat inward to family, hearth, and lineage. Lord Byron, influenced by Russian folklore, even sets the template for the Vourdalak's cruelty in a chilling couplet he wrote about the revenant who will haunt his native place and suck the blood of all his race. The West imagined the vampire as an aristocrat with independent wealth. The Slavs remembered him as a family member with the keys to the house. Our most influential Vourdalak arrives in literature in 1839 from a Russian author, Aleksey Tolstoy, a cousin of Leo. He composed a tale called La Famille de Vourdalak, the family of the Vourdalak, written in French and later published in Russian. It is told as a winter fireside story by a French diplomat, Marquise de I wonder if we're related, who strays into a Serbian household during their night of ultimate horror. Their patriarch, Gorcha, has gone hunting a notorious bandit. Before leaving, he tells his sons, "Wait 10 days. If I return a minute late, shut me out and drive a stake through my heart, for I will be a Vourdalak." The clock runs down. The night arrives, and Gorcha appears, perhaps on time, perhaps not. And the family let their father in. Only the beloved family dog does not seem to recognize his master. Within days, the youngest child sickens and dies. The family dwindles, but still they obey their father and seem unable to defy him, though one by one they weaken and die. The Marquis flees, but returns a year later, finding the village all but abandoned. Only Gorcha's beautiful daughter remains, but she is not what she seems. Vampirism has spread like a frost across the village, and the Vourdalak attacks what it loves most, in this case, the Marquis. I don't blame the Vourdalak, we Marquises are irresistibly charming. Sorry about that. Across the Slavic languages, the border between vampire and werewolf is porous. The very root word, Vurdalak, is often analysed as wolf hair or skin and conjures the idea of shapeshifter and predator. The Russian upir covers the broader vampire idea, while Vourdalak is the literary, Balkan-flavoured variant that Pushkin helped popularise, and Tolstoy chose as a name to describe the family-hunting vampire. So what exactly distinguishes a Vourdalak from the elegant aristocratic vampire of later Gothic fiction? They are family first. The Vourdalak targets his family, weaponizing kinship. The blood of his family is the most strengthening and delicious. It is a love betrayed, and perhaps the Vourdalak drinks that love for sustenance too. The Vourdalak appears in the liminal space of contested borderlands, to war-struck people who may not even know which country they belong to. To these communities, a village heart, a settled home, and strong family are the most precious assets. Daylight does not harm the Vourdalak. It is active both night and day. It is, however, strongly averse to food and drink. And finally, its appearance is a test of the heart. In Tolstoy's tale, the patriarch warns, "If I return after 10 days, do not let me in and stake me." The danger is the family's love, overriding caution. The loved ones perish because they are paralyzed by familial affection. Home is supposed to be the place that keeps the night outside. But the Vourdalak rewrites that concept. It uses the grammar of kinship, welcome, feeding, shelter, as the very instruments of attack. This horror affects us because it isn't about resisting a stranger's intrusion, it's about resisting the habits of love. To bar a beloved father is to risk becoming unfilial. To open the door is to become a conspirator in your family's undoing. But you want to help so badly. The terror is moral, not just mortal. You are trapped between virtues that cancel one another. To save the household, someone must become cold enough to say no at the exact moment when mercy most wants to say yes. War-torn borderlands are still a part of our world, and they breed the conditions for a Vourdalak. Checkpoints, razor wire, unnamed hinterlands. Families wait for a knock that means a son has been released, a father has crossed the river, a sister has made a way through. Then comes the test that Tolstoy set like a snare. Will they be the same? The Vourdalak is also the parable of homegrown harm, not the glamorous foreign count, but the friend you grew up with who borrowed your clothes, holidayed with your family, and who now knows which weaknesses to target. Sadly, modern violence often arrives with a familiar face. A raging parent, cousins on opposite side of a checkpoint, the ex-partner whose key still fits the lock. The Vourdalak is the allegory of that intimacy betrayed. It doesn't need inviting in, it lived here, it lives here. In our age, the Vourdalak returns to ask the same precise question. Where does the boundary of love lie? If Count Dracula teaches us to fear strangers, the Vourdalak teaches us to examine the face across the kitchen table. Are you going to answer that? In conclusion, I remain your obedient servant, the Marquis de Sadness.